Kawhi Leonard's return just shook the NBA, the NBA didn't just get another offseason trade. It got a shockwave. Kawhi Leonard, the same silent superstar who once walked into Toronto, delivered the only championship in Raptors history, won Finals MVP, and then vanished to Los Angeles almost overnight, is now back in the city that never truly let him go. And this time, the story feels even more dangerous than the first one. Because Toronto didn't bring Kawhi back for nostalgia, they brought him back to win. The Raptors have reportedly made one of the boldest moves of the offseason, sending out Brandon Ingram, Gradey Dick, future draft picks, and long-term flexibility just to land one player entering the final stretch of his career. On paper, that sounds risky, maybe even reckless. But in Toronto, this name changes everything. Kawhi Leonard is not just another star. He is the man who turned a franchise from respected into feared. He is the reason an entire country remembers 2019 like it happened yesterday. And now, somehow, the Raptors are trying to run the same movie again. But this sequel comes with a twist. Kawhi didn't just get moved, he helped shape the move. While other teams watched from the outside, waiting to see if they could enter the race, Leonard reportedly made it clear that Toronto was the place where he was willing to commit. That one decision changed the market, weakened the Clippers' leverage, and turn this from a normal trade into something much bigger. A controlled homecoming, a calculated final chapter, a message to the league that Kawhi still wants the stage, still wants the pressure, and still believes he can win when the lights get brightest. But the question is not whether Toronto remembers what Kawhi did before. Everybody remember, the real question is whether he can do it again with an older body, a different roster, a massive contract waiting, and the shadow of his Clippers exit still following. Because this version of the Raptors is not the 2019 team. Scottie Barnes is not Kyle Lowry. Brandon Ingram is gone. The young core is still growing. The East is crowded, hungry, and unforgiving. And every night Kawhi steps on the floor, fans will wonder the same thing. Is this the return of a champion or the beginning of one of the biggest gambles in modern NBA history? Toronto just pushed every chip to the middle of the table, and now the whole league is watching to see if lightning can strike twice in the same city. Before we go deeper, tell me where you're watching from right now. Are you in Toronto, Los Angeles, New York, Miami, or somewhere else? If you believe Kawhi can lead the Raptors back to the finals, comment 1. If you think this trade is too risky, comment 2. And if you love NBA drama, trades, and behind-the-scenes stories like this, make sure you subscribe, because this Kawhi situation is only getting started. The price Toronto paid. The part nobody can ignore is the price. Toronto did not bring Kawhi Leonard back with loose change. This was not a harmless move on the margins. This was the kind of trade that makes a front office either look fearless or foolish, depending on what happens next. Brandon Ingram is gone. Gradey Dick is gone. Future first-round picks are gone. Extra draft capital is gone. Flexibility that could have helped Toronto build slowly over the next decade is now sitting in Los Angeles. And all of it was sacrificed for one idea. If Kawhi Leonard is healthy, the Raptors are dangerous again. That is the bet, and it is not a small one. Ingram was not just another player on the roster. He was a proven scorer, a long wing, a guy who could create his own shot and carry offense on tough nights. Gradey Dick represented youth, shooting, and development. The picks represented insurance. They were Toronto's safety net if things went wrong. But championship teams do not always live in safety. Sometimes they choose the window over the future. Sometimes they look at the roster, look at the conference, look at the superstar available, and decide that waiting is more dangerous than acting. That is exactly what the Raptors did. Because Toronto has seen this movie before. They once traded away DeMar DeRozan, one of the most loved players in franchise history, for 1 year of Kawhi. People questioned it. Fans were hurt, analysts called it risky. Then Kawhi hit the biggest shot in franchise history, carried them through the East, and delivered a championship parade that changed Canadian basketball forever. So when people ask why Toronto would dare to try this again, the answer is simple. Because it worked once. But that is also what makes this move terrifying. The first Kawhi gamble came with a younger player, a stronger veteran core, and a team already built to survive playoff pressure. This version is different. Kawhi is older, the roster is younger, the East has evolved, and the cost of failure is heavier than before. If this works, Toronto becomes one of the boldest franchises in basketball. If it fails, people will look back at this trade as the moment the Raptors handed away their future for a memory. That is the knife edge they are standing on. One side is glory. The other side is regret. Why Kawhi chose Toronto? Again, the most powerful part of this story is not that Toronto wanted Kawhi Leonard. It is that Kawhi Leonard wanted Toronto. That changes everything. In most superstar trades, teams battle for leverage. They stack offers, leak interest, pressure front offices, and hope the player accepts the destination after the deal is done. But this situation was different. Kawhi reportedly made it clear that if an extension was involved, Toronto was the place he was willing to consider. That one preference reshaped the entire market. Suddenly, teams that might have chased him had to stop and think, why give up major assets for a player who might not stay? Why mortgage the future for a superstar who already has his eyes on another city? Minnesota could be interested. Detroit could ask questions. Dallas could explore the idea. But without Kawhi's long-term commitment, every offer became weaker, and that gave Toronto the opening. Kawhi has always been one of the most difficult stars in the NBA to read. He does not explain every emotion. He does not chase attention. He does not turn every decision into a public performance. Most of the time, he lets silence create the mystery around him. But this decision spoke loudly. Toronto was not random. It was familiar. It was proven. It was the city where Kawhi became immortal. It was the organization that once gave him the perfect stage, protected his body, trusted his timeline, and watched him deliver under the biggest pressure of his career. That kind of history mattered. For Kawhi, this is not just about basketball. It is about control. He is entering the final major chapter of his career, and he does not want that chapter written by someone else. He wants the team, the money, the environment, and the legacy to line up. Toronto gives him that chance. He can return as a champion instead of a stranger. He can chase another ring in a conference that feels open enough to attack. He can play beside a young star in Scottie Barnes instead of carrying everything alone. And if it all goes right, he can end his career in the same city where he became a legend. That is why this move feels bigger than a transaction. Kawhi did not simply change jerseys. He chose the place where he wants his final basketball story to matter. Scottie Barnes' career just changed. Nobody on the Raptors roster may feel this trade more than Scottie Barnes. Because before Kawhi Leonard arrived, Barnes was carrying a burden that most young stars are not ready to carry alone. He had to defend. He had to create. He had to rebound. He had to organize the offense. He had to be the emotional center of a team still searching for direction. And on too many nights, he also had to become the late game scorer. That is too much. Not because Barnes lacks talent. He has plenty of it. His size, vision, defensive range, physicality, and energy make him one of the most unique young players in the league. But even the most complete players need help, especially when the game slows down in the fourth quarter and every possession becomes a test of shot making. That is where Kawhi changes the entire picture. Kawhi gives Toronto something Barnes has not truly had, a proven number one scoring option who has already done it on the biggest stage. A player who does not panic when the defense switches. A player who can get to his spot. A player who understands playoff pressure, late clock possessions, and the kind of silence that falls over an arena when a superstar is about to decide the game. That matters for Barnes. Now, he does not have to force every answer. He can attack mismatches, he can push in transition, he can defend the opponent's best player without also being expected to hit every difficult shot late. He can grow into his full game instead of being trapped by the team's immediate needs. That is how young stars become dangerous, not by doing everything alone, but by learning next to greatness. The comparison is not about saying Barnes is already LeBron James or Scottie Pippen. That would be unfair. But the idea is similar. Great all-around forwards often reach another level when paired with elite scorers. The scorer bends the defense. The connector punishes the gaps. The team becomes harder to guard because responsibility is finally shared. That is what Toronto is hoping for. Kawhi may be the headline, but Barnes is the future. And if this partnership works, it could become the bridge between the Raptors' past glory and their next real championship window. Because this move is not just about bringing Kawhi home, it is about unlocking Scottie Barnes before the league is ready for it. Toronto fans explode. The moment the news hit, Toronto did not react like a normal fan base. It erupted. For years, Raptors fans carried a strange mix of pride and heartbreak when it came to Kawhi Leonard. They loved what he gave them. They remembered the shot. They remembered the parade. They remembered the championship that made the entire country feel like the center of the basketball world. But they also remembered how quickly he left. That wound never fully disappeared. So when the reports said Kawhi was coming back, the reaction was not simple happiness. It was shock, disbelief, nostalgia, excitement, fear, and old emotion, all crashing together at once. Some fans saw it as destiny. The hero returning to the city where he became untouchable. The quiet superstar coming back to finish what he started. The Raptors proving once again that they are not just a small market afterthought, but a franchise willing to swing harder than almost anyone when the right opportunity appears. Others saw the danger immediately. They looked at the picks, they looked at Ingram, they looked at Gradey Dick, they looked at Kawhi's age and injury history, and they asked the uncomfortable question. What if this version is not the same guy? That is the debate now splitting the fan base. Emotion says, this is beautiful. Logic says this is risky. And somehow, Both sides are right. That is what makes the story so powerful. Kawhi is not just a basketball player in Toronto. He is a symbol. He represents the greatest moment the franchise has ever had. Bringing him back does not feel like adding a star. It feels like reopening a chapter people thought was closed forever. But the NBA does not reward nostalgia. It rewards production. It rewards health. It rewards chemistry. It rewards teams that can survive 4 rounds of playoff pressure. Toronto fans know that. That is why the excitement has an edge to it. They want to believe. They want to see Kawhi in that jersey again. They want to hear the arena explode when he checks into a game. They want one more run, one more spring, one more reason to think the impossible can happen again. But deep down, they also know the truth. If this works, it becomes one of the greatest returns in NBA history. If it fails, the heartbreak will feel twice as heavy because this time, Toronto chose to believe again. The contract, the agent, and the final chapter. Kawhi Leonard's return to Toronto is not just a basketball move. It is a business move. And the business side may tell us more about his mindset than anything he says at a microphone. Right as this trade was coming together, Kawhi reportedly made a major change around him. New representation, a new lead voice in negotiations, a different structure for the people handling the next deal of his career. For a player as private and controlled as Kawhi, that kind of move is never in. It means this contract mattered. Not just because of the money, although the money is massive. Kawhi could be looking at a deal worth around $60 million per year, a number usually reserved for younger superstars in the heart of their primes. For a player in his mid 3-0s with a long injury history, that is a serious commitment from Toronto. But this is not only about salary, it is about control. Kawhi is setting the terms for how the last major chapter of his career will look. He wants the right city, the right organization, the right contract, the right people around him, the right chance to compete. And Toronto is clearly willing to give him the platform. That tells you the Raptors are not treating this like a farewell tour. They are not bringing Kawhi back so fans can clap for old memories. They are not paying him just because of what he did in 2019. They are betting that there is still enough elite basketball left in his body to justify the risk. And based on his recent production, they have a reason to believe when healthy, Kawhi still looks like one of the most efficient two-way stars in the NBA. He can slow the game down. He can defend strong wings. He can create shots that do not depend on a perfect offensive system. He can make a young team feel more serious the moment he steps into the locker room. That is what Toronto is buying. Not just points, not just reputation, presence. The problem is that presence comes with pressure. Once that extension is signed, there is no hiding from expectations. Every missed game becomes a topic. Every playoff loss becomes a referendum. Every quiet press conference becomes part of the mystery. That is the cost of being Kawhi Leonard. He does not talk much, but every decision around him creates noise. And this decision may define how people remember the final act of his career. The Clippers' shadow still follows him. Kawhi Leonard may be back in Toronto, but Los Angeles is not completely behind him. That is the uncomfortable part of this story. Because while the Raptors are celebrating a homecoming, the Clippers are still facing questions connected to Kawhi's old contract situation. Reports and investigations have continued to focus on an alleged endorsement arrangement involving aspiration, the Clippers, and whether any rules may have been crossed around salary cap limits. To be clear, these are allegations and investigations, not final conclusions. But in the NBA, even unresolved questions can create major damage. The issue is simple on the surface and complicated underneath. Reports suggested that Kawhi had a sponsorship deal connected to a company with ties to the Clippers' business world. Critics questioned whether that deal was ordinary marketing or whether it functioned like extra compensation outside of his official player contract. That is a huge difference. Normal endorsements are part of the NBA world. Stars make money from brands all the time, but if a team were ever found to have arranged outside money to keep a player happy while avoiding salary cap rules, that would become a serious league matter. That is why the investigation mattered. And even though Kawhi is no longer in Los Angeles, his name is still attached to the story because the deal involved him. The Raptors cannot control that. Kawhi cannot erase it just by changing jerseys, and the Clippers cannot simply move on if the league still has questions to answer. For Toronto, this creates a strange situation. They are trying to build a clean new chapter around a player whose previous chapter still has smoke around it. Not because Kawhi has been officially punished, not because anything has been fully proven against him, but because in the modern NBA, perception moves fast. Fans see headline, rivals see weakness, media members keep asking questions. And every time Kawhi appears in a Raptors uniform, part of the conversation may still drift back to what happened in Los Angeles. That is the shadow. Not enough to stop the excitement, but enough to add tension to the story. The Raptors are not responsible for the Clippers' past business, but they are now tied to the player at the center of that storm. And if the league eventually issues penalties against Los Angeles, the fallout could keep Kawhi's name in the news even while he is trying to chase another championship in Toronto. That is what makes this return so dramatic. Kawhi came home looking for a fresh ending, but the league may not be finished with his last chapter yet. Can Toronto actually win the East? The biggest basketball question is simple. Can this Raptors team actually win the Eastern Conference? Because if the answer is no, then the trade becomes hard to defend. You do not give up players, picks, and years of flexibility just to become interesting. You make this kind of move because you believe a real playoff run is possible. Toronto clearly believes it, and on paper, there is a case. Kawhi Leonard gives the Raptors a proven closer. Scottie Barnes gives them versatility, size, energy, and defensive upside. RJ Barrett brings downhill scoring and physicality. Emmanuel quickly gives them speed, shooting, and guard creation. Jakob Poeltl provides screening, rebounding, and interior structure. That is not a rebuild anymore. That is a team trying to win now. The defensive ceiling is what makes the idea so intriguing. Kawhi and Barnes together could create a nightmare for opposing wings. Toronto can switch, they can pressure, they can put length on the floor, they can force teams to work late into the shot clock. And in the playoffs, that matters as much as star power. But defense alone does not win the East. The Raptors need half-court offense. They need health. They need spacing. They need Kawhi to be available when the season matters most. They need Barnes to take another step. They need Quickly to handle pressure. They need Barrett to make smart decisions when defenses tighten. They need Poeltl to survive in playoff matchups where teams hunt every weakness. That is a lot to ask, and the East will not wait for Toronto to figure it out. Other contenders are already built with chemistry, experience, and playoff scars of their own. Every team will test the Raptors early. Every coach will try to make Kawhi move, make Barnes shoot, make the supporting cast prove they can survive outside the regular season. Still, Toronto has something that cannot be dismissed: a ceiling. Before this trade, the Raptors were interesting but limited. After this trade, they are dangerous. Maybe not the favorite, maybe not the safest bet, but dangerous enough that no top seed would want to see them healthy in April. That is the power of Kawhi. He changes the way opponents prepare. He changes the way fans dream. He changes the way a franchise measures its own timeline. Toronto may not be guaranteed anything, but for the first time in years, the Raptors are no longer asking when the future will arrive. They are asking whether the future is already here. The risk nobody can ignore. For all the excitement around Kawhi Leonard's return, one truth cannot be ignored. This could go wrong, not because Kawhi lacks talent. When healthy, he is still one of the most dangerous two-way players in the NBA. The problem is the word that has followed him for years: health. Toronto knows the risk. Every fan knows it too. Kawhi is older now. His body has been through long seasons, playoff battles, and injury setbacks. So even though the dream is powerful, the danger is real. What if he misses too much time? What if he cannot carry a full playoff run? What if Toronto paid for the memory of 2019 instead of the version of Kawhi that can still dominate today? That is what makes this trade so tense. The Raptors did not make a safe move. They gave up Brandon Ingram, Gradey Dick, future picks, and flexibility because they believe this roster can win now, but once you pay that price, patience disappears. Every loss becomes louder. Every missed game becomes a headline. Every strong performance from the players they traded away becomes a painful reminder. And the pressure does not stop with Kawhi. Scottie Barnes has to adjust. RJ Barrett has to fit. Emmanuel Quickly has to handle bigger expectations. The coaching staff has to build chemistry fast. This is not the same veteran Raptors team that won in 2019. This group still has questions, and the Eastern Conference will not wait for Toronto to figure them out. That is the gamble. If Kawhi stays healthy, this could become one of the greatest homecoming stories in NBA history. If he does not, the Raptors may have sacrificed years of future assets for a dream that never fully arrived. Toronto just pushed everything to the center of the table. Now Kawhi's body, Barnes' growth, and the Raptors' belief all have to hold up under the brightest lights. Legacy, lessons, and the final question. In the end, this story is not just about a trade, it is about legacy. Kawhi Leonard is returning to the city where he became immortal. Toronto is bringing back the man who delivered its only NBA championship, and the Raptors are betting that one more run, one more push, one more bold decision can change the future of the franchise again. But this time, the lesson is different. In 2019, Toronto shocked the league with a fearless move. This time, the move comes with more pressure, more money, more risk, and less room for error. Kawhi is older, the roster is different, the East is stronger, and the cost of failure is much higher. Still, great teams rarely win by being afraid. The Raptors saw a chance and attacked it. They chose ambition over comfort. They chose a championship window over a slow rebuild. They chose to believe that Scottie Barnes, Kawhi Leonard, and this new core can become dangerous enough to scare the entire conference. There is also a human side to remember. Brandon Ingram, Gradey Dick, and every player involved in this move are not just trade pieces. Their lives changed overnight. That is the reality of the NBA. Behind every headline, there are people, families, careers, and emotions. Winning matters, but respect should never disappear from the conversation. That is the real lesson here. Chase greatness, but do not lose perspective. Take risks, but understand the cost. Build for championships, but remember the people who helped you get there. Now the question belongs to Toronto. Can Kawhi Leonard stay healthy enough to lead one more run? Can Scottie Barnes become the star this team needs? Can the Raptors turn a risky reunion into another championship story? Kawhi is back. Toronto believes again, and the whole NBA is watching. If you believe Kawhi can lead the Raptors back to the NBA Finals, comment 1. If you think this trade is too risky, comment 2. And if you want more NBA trades, drama, and behind-the-scenes stories like this, make sure you subscribe, like the video, and share it with another NBA fan.